Good morning, everyone. Today we are taking a look at the Benchmark Universe Unit 9, Week 1, Lesson 4, where we are taking information from multiple sources to answer a question. The focus question for today is what geographical features of Chicago have made it an ideal location for population growth? Use information from both sections, the founding of Chicago, to explain the population growth during each period. So I've opened up the article, The Founding of Chicago, and I've also opened up the graphic organizer that goes along with it. And both of these are able to be annotated in your Benchmark Universe account. So taking a look at the first section, the first people of Chicago. When reading, we noted that the area once served as home of trade center for many different tribes before the arrival of the European settlers. So I'm going to go ahead and note that as my very first piece of information here, that the area was a trade center for many tribes. And that is going to be our first piece of evidence about the area of Chicago. Now, in further reading, it's noted that these early people built a great civilization, but they disappeared sometime around 1600. So I'm going to add that these early people or settlers, which they were, they disappeared around 1600. Further, I'm going to note after that the reason that some historians think that they may have been forced to move from major sites when their population had grown too large and they ran out of natural resources. That is an important piece that we want to include. So you can actually use that as a quotation. Some historians believe they may have been forced to move from when their populations had grown too large and they ran out of natural resources. And that is the full sentence right there from the page. Now, taking a look at the Europeans arrived, which is the next section. The first thing that I would like to note is that here in paragraph 4, it says the first settler of Chicago was Jean-Baptiste Point du Sable. Very little is known about him, but he was a free black man believed to be born in Haiti or Santo Domingo. He settled in Chicago around the late 1700s or 1770s or 1780s at the mouth of the Chicago River, where he established a trading post. So I'm going to put that in as my first point under the Europeans arrive, that man created a trading post there. And again, that was in Chicago. And reading further, traders could easily reach it using the river. And thus, even in its early years, Chicago was a hub or center for trading goods. Those are all important parts and explanations as to why Chicago population was a good place for population growth and where people were moving. So I'm going to include that as a direct quote in my drawing on information from multiple sources to support why that is important. Thus, in its early years, Chicago was a hub or center Sorry for the typo. Trying to copy from the book in my lap. For trading goods. And one more detail I'm going to include also from here is that in 1803, the United States Army built Fort Dearborn on the river to help protect the early settlers and traders. We need to include that soon after, more people settled in the Chicago area and they farmed and started businesses. So all of these things contributed to how Chicago became so popular. So I'm going to include in my graphic organizer that Fort Dearborn, built in 1803, protected settlers and helped encourage settlement and trade. Now we have to ask ourselves, taking a look back at our question, what geographical features of Chicago have made it ideal for location for population growth? So taking a look at the information that we have compiled in this chart, I think what we can include, let me just make this a little bit bigger so that all the information stays there. I'm going to say that one of the most important aspects was that it was nearby a river. Which made it easy for them to have trading with people in other areas, especially people who had mobility across the river. So for both Native Americans and later settlers, Europeans, Chicago was used as a trading post because it was easily reached using the nearby river. Okay, the trading advantage is what attracted more people to live in the area. And that is what we have. So your job is going to be to annotate yours, and you have all of the information that you need to help you draw on multiple sources to help answer a question. That's all for now.